He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time with Jon and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
Greetings, citizens of Gotham, and welcome back to Bat Minute Forever,
Whoa.
the show that... Whoa!
You don't know how you took it. You just know what you get. Won't be hearing that again until the end of the movie. So
Yes, because it's so prevalent throughout this film, that very famous theme song. As is Kiss from a Rose. It's all over the movie. You're going to hear it 50 times. I'm sure. But yes, welcome to Bat Minute Forever, the show that analyzes and investigates Joel Schumacher's Batman Forever 1 minute at a time. I am your host, John Parker, and I am forever.
This is going to do like an I am Iron Man, but would be completely inappropriate. It's like, that's right, we're going over to Marvel this season.
Yeah, screw this DC crap.
But yes, my name now, hurtling its multicolored way towards you, is Niall McGowan.
Welcome back.
Hey, I'm glad to be back. Very excited to talk about this film. Like, this is one I have great affection for. Hadn't seen it in quite a while. Like, used to watch it all the time when I was a kid. Then had a gap of about 10 years there where I just didn't watch it at all. Was going in to be like, okay, so let's see how she handles, like, now that I'm in my 30s. And was relieved to find that I still really, really loved it. So,
yeah, it's. I've said before on the show, this is the one I've seen the least. I think as a kid, I mean, when it came out, you know, I watched it nonstop. I had the VHS, but I don't think I've seen it since the VHS days, really. I watched the first two because they're incredible. I watched Batman and Robin because it's stupid. But this kind of falls between the two. So I was unsure what I was going to think of it, but as you're going to discover, I enjoy a lot of this. It's not perfect, but there's a lot of fun to be had, a lot of silliness, which is both good and bad.
Yeah. I think it was like, you know, what's probably going to be a common thread throughout the whole thing is that, like, I think this is a pretty good movie. This is a pretty fun movie, but there's a lot of stuff. They had the groundwork laid where it could have been a great movie, and they took it out. So there's going to be, it's a very, very flawed film. It's like it's kind of half a good film and half a mutilated, scarred movie that's affected by the butchering of the criminal editors who came in and poured acid over one half of the of the picture.
It is weird as well because, as we're going to see, the tone of the movie's strange. Because they've tried to change it up and make it a little bit more maybe like the 60s. But they've still got one toe in the Burtonverse.
Yeah.
So it's weird. I don't know. It comes across very strange, this whole movie. Peculiar is the word.
Well, so even like from the get-go, like as this minute one starts, like you're starting off in the Burton tone. Like it's got the...
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of, I'm assuming this is what, like, Ash and Kit and whatnot based the beginning of our own theme on, because you have this, like, you know, the Warner Brothers logo comes up, and then this, you know, the very doomy, gloomy kind of ominous theme. I love behind that, too. If you're listening carefully, you can hear these kind of, like kind of dripping, trickling violins. Like, it's really creepy. Like, it's horror movie music. And then, of course, the logo transforms into the bat symbol, which was when you're
with wonderfully of the time CGI.
Oh yes, yeah. It's one of those things
which to me is a good sign though, because it lets you know, oh, this is going to be different.
Oh yeah, and one thing that, like, you know, that I've learned from previous seasons is that one person who would not have been happy with this, I can imagine, would have been Tim Burton, because as we talked about way at the beginning of season 1, he had to fight tooth and nail to get them to slightly alter the Warner Brothers logo at the beginning of '89, where they just
And this literally alters.
Yeah,
It transforms.
it's just like that was all he wanted to do there. So it's like, yeah, the logo stays the same, but it's just returning it from a daytime into nighttime in the background. Like, what's the problem with that? And he must have been just sitting watching this, and been like, oh, I guess I should just go myself then. All right. Oh, Joel Schumacher, you'll do it for. But Jesus Christ, like, God, who paved the way from this? Tim Burton paved the way for this.
Something I found interesting as well is that the logo. I'm going to come back to this later on. The logo is blue.
Mm.
Now, the color scheme of this movie is often seen as green.
Yeah.
Which, in an upcoming minute, I have a theory on why it's still blue at this point.
Mm.
Little tease.
Oh, but I think it's more because the green stuff's just more the Riddler. It's been like, so people know this is the one with the Riddler in it. But
I know that's the actual sort of face value reason, but I think there's a subtextual reason.
the Two-Face value reason? Is that what you're...
Oh,
it's going to be the whole season, folks.
anytime we say two.
It's like even like reading material based around this movie, reading anything on Two-Face, the amount of times they work in two or double or what. Even I was just rolling my eyes up and like, oh, for God's sake, can you let one go?
Before we get the logo as well, I of course Warner Brothers comes up.
Oh yeah,
as the normal logo. And I just had a little look, but like between Batman Returns and this, like what did they put out? What were they up to? And they put out some great and some successful films.
Mm.
Now, they're not always the same thing. Let me clarify. But, like the list is endless, I think. Under Siege, Malcolm X, The Bodyguard, The Fugitive,
Like
True Romance, Demolition Man,
that was
Natural Born Killers.
That was the one to start off. One was Under Siege.
Under Siege is great.
Of course, it has Tommy
Ace
Lee Jones in it
Ventura.
as a very flamboyant villain. So I guess
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing that's going to come up a few times we're going to notice. Tommy Lee Jones and this slate of movies that came out just before this. He was in a lot of them.
Yeah. Oh, he is.
He's a contract guy, I think.
I think it is bizarre. Like maybe it's just the '90s was Tommy Lee Jones's time. Like for whatever reason, people wanted to see this craggy-faced old git in movies.
Some miserable bastard. I love him. But yeah, Ace Ventura, another connection there, and everyone's favorite from the list: Police Academy Mission to Moscow.
Hey, especially in Moscow before '95.
Yeah.
I thought for some reason I thought that was like late '90s when it was just like nobody cared anymore and it was just ready to die.
Well, nobody did care.
Yeah,
But yeah. Let me.
it's been anticipated. Oh, people were just ready for it to die earlier in that decade. It didn't even stretch out the majority of it.
Here you go, 1994.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It wasn't like Police Academy 6 was like 87 or something. So maybe there's a big friggin' there was a massive gap. Or maybe it was
because nobody cared after Police Academy like 1 or 2.
But anywho, we probably should do just because this is just credits minute. Thankfully, this season it is like 1 minute of credits at the start. There's nothing after this minute. We're into the movie, and it's just like, oh, there's no.
This whole movie is relentless.
Yeah,
like and it's embodied in these first 3 minutes we've got this week.
Yeah. I do. I love. Well, the thing is, because the morphing of the bat, the Warner Brother logo to the bat symbol it's a great concept, but it is very CGI. Like it's very it's very 90s CGI. I was just like, that's a great idea. I wonder if there's a way you could do that now. And I guess like they did do that. Like,
Do that, but good.
I wonder how much like inspiration Chris Nolan was taken from that, because it's like, oh yeah, more for the thing into the bat logo. That's like, because in his 3 Batman movies, you had swarm of bats in the sky, you see the logo, you see like freaking the wall of blue flame, the logo comes out of it, the wall of ice, and then the bats. It's kind of wonder if he's just like, yeah, I like that. And there's Joel Schumacher ones when he just had like the symbol would appear out of nowhere, and just like that was the beginning of the movie, was just the symbol and stuff. But of course, this is not just the symbol, but it is the sort of signal, as it were, that what you're watching is a Batman film.
Oh, a signal.
Yeah.
I've never thought about that. That's amazing.
But I did have some notes on just like how did we get here? How did we between?
I've been asking myself that very question.
Between Returns and Forever, what exactly? How did where's we have here Tim Burton production? Why isn't he on board?
I was going to say,
yeah.
We see he's the producer. That's if you go into this blind, that's a interesting sign. You must be like, oh.
I think it's up there with the the Man of Steel. Chris Nolan's a producer on Man of Steel, but he probably hasn't even seen Man of Steel. He's just like,
no.
Oh, my name's on it for some reason, but it's like I got a paycheck out of it somehow. But yeah, I guess I mean, put my name on it if you want.
Technically, you can be like a producer or executive producer by kind of just okaying stuff and sending some cash somewhere and moving things around, making a couple of calls.
Yeah. But basically, what happened was the day of the premiere of Batman Returns comes out, as we covered at the end of the season last time. It's wasn't a complete disaster. Some people were going "Oh, that was so horrifying" and stuff like that. Well received critically, did make some money and stuff, but there was an undercurrent of this is too much. And of course, in the aftermath, there was all the things of talk shows bringing on kids and saying I was too scared of it and all this sort of stuff.
Good.
But I guess they knew from the off, though, when they got the finished product, Warner Brothers knew there was something up. So apparently the day after the premiere, Tim Burton said he was called into the office and he was just like, oh, God, this is going to be about the third one, right? So I guess I better pitch them something because he had no ideas. He was just like, all right, I'll come in. Apparently he came in, sat down, and he's just like, I'm assuming this is about Batman. So I guess if I were to do a third one, and then he pitched them a bunch of ideas. And they kind of sat there going, okay. Yeah, well, maybe. And then at the end, he said he sensed the room changing. And he was just like, you don't want me to do a third one, do you? And they're like, no, not really.
They've stole all his ideas, though. They let him rant first.
It was like, oh, you never know, he might have something good. It's like, morph Bat Warner Brothers logo into Bat symbol.
Perfect.
But, and then from after that, they went, it doesn't seem to be a lot of, shopping around for directors. It seems like they went kind of straight to Joel Schumacher. He said he was early pre-production on The Client, which, of course, very dry legal drama starring Tommy Lee Jones. And as it must have been a rare situation because Joel Schumacher was a Batman fan. He's a guy who grew up on the comics and he loved the show and all this sort of stuff. And he was called in, again by Warner Brothers as he's prepping to do this dry legal drama. And they're just like, well, what do you think about doing Batman? You imagine having that in your mind. Then it's like, I'm going to get to do a Batman movie and then having to go off and make this really boring drama.
You'd be tempted to spice it up a little.
Yeah, it's like, well, what if The Client was like a supervillain?
I actually wasn't too familiar. Obviously, I know him from this, but I didn't realize he'd actually worked on so many things I know. Well, I mean, like St. Elmo's Fire. I'm a huge fan of that. Yeah,
you're kind of wondering, why they'd approach him. And to be fair, he did start off as a costume designer. Worked on Woody Allen's Sleeper. It was one of the first things he did as a costume designer. And then made his directorial debut with The Incredible Shrinking Woman with Lily Tomlin, Ned Beatty.
Oh, yeah.
We'll say, because I was like, I better go through Joel Schumacher's back catalog. So I start watching a lot of his stuff. And the opening credits of The Incredible Shrinking Woman are on a black screen with every word is a different color. And the actual title comes up in purple, red, gold, and green. And it's the same colors from this opening credit sequence.
It is.
And I was just and every
he's got a thing.
Yeah, and every person's name came up a different color. And it was all the same kind of tone of color. I was like, I wonder if this is a thing that he likes to do. That he's just like, oh.
Well, I don't remember him doing it in The Lost Boys. That he was.
It was falling down. It was just Michael Douglas's name in hot pink just came up out of nowhere.
I also didn't realize he did Flatliners.
Oh yeah,
and a favorite of ours, Niall, DC Cab.
Indeed, it did. Produced by John Peters. DC Cab.
Yeah. DC Cab we watched it. I think we've said before on the show, guys, but we watched it thinking, oh, this will be a funny bad movie, and we were actually kind of transfixed. It was genuinely a great film.
I can see too with like some of the movies he's done. You're like, I don't know why they would go like, oh, that's the guy for Batman. Well, at least with Tim Burton, you're like, oh, I get the mentality of like, oh, weird, kooky gothic guy. But I think the big hitters would be Lost Boys and Flatliners because they're both kind of, you know, dark and gothic. But Flatliners particularly is very visually stylized and stuff.
Yeah, and then maybe as well, to be honest, it's totally different. But maybe St. Elmo's Fire to show, you know, you can get in a lot of emotional dialogue.
Yeah.
You can shoot that kind of, because, you know, that's all like the teens having all these. Well, they're not teens in St. Elmo's Fire. They're a little bit older, aren't they, in that one? But they're all having problems and things. You know, you get a lot of that in Batman. There's all emotional stuff and relationships.
Yeah.
But you don't want it to be soppy. And St. Elmo's Fire is not soppy, I wouldn't say.
Yeah. But I think, like, something like The Lost Boys, though, has that nice balance between, like, oh, there's dark, weird, gothic stuff in it. And it's kind of scary and whatnot. But it's also got this kind of MTV pacing. And it's kind of got, like, a lightness to it as well. So I think
that's got to be the number one thing that got him this.
Yeah, I think it's very much like, oh, this guy, he knows how to, you know, that thing could have been a full blown horror movie, but he got the friggin' Corey Feldman, that other kid, and Corey Haim. They had their kind of kooky, oh, they're vampire hunters, but they're kids and all that sort of stuff. And that guy ingested a lot of fun into the movie. It's like, I think I can understand. I just wondered like why there's no talk of like, well, maybe they're going to go to like Richard Donner, whether. You know, I can't find anyone else they were approached. It seemed to be it was Schumacher was the guy for them straight off.
Yeah, same. I didn't see anyone even sort of floated around.
Apparently, he was handily enough. He was close friends with Tim Burton, and he said like, well, he told him like, I don't want to step on his toes, so I'll check with him first. And apparently, he went to Burton. And he's like, would you mind if I did the next Batman? And Tim Burton was like, oh no, take it for the love of God, please take it, please take it off my hands. He must have, to be honest, Burton must have been sick of dealing with Warner Brothers executives and things. He's not the kind of person to do that. Then again, he is currently doing things like Alice. Yeah. Or Dumbo, which is even Dumbo's got it's still like it's sticking it to Disney while also making over $1 billion for Disney.
Did it make a lot of money?
Oh, it was a huge hit. Yeah, it was.
I still haven't seen it. We were going to review it as a bonus episode. And Niall, you went to watch it, didn't you? And reported back some very bad things. We sacked that idea off.
But it's I think Burton's the only person I can imagine like out of that original two movies. Like if you went back to Keaton now and was like, would you want to be Batman again? Michael Keaton, I think, would say yes in a heartbeat. If you went to Michelle Pfeiffer, she's like, sure, I'll do Catwoman again. If you went to Jack Nicholson. Even now that he's like friggin' near 90, he'd probably be like, oh, sure, I'll play the Joker again.
Oh, that'd be cool. A really old Joker.
Dan DeVito on record is saying he wants back in on Batman. But Tim Burton's the only person I can imagine if they went to him, would you want to do Batman 3? He'd be like, nah, just not, I'm not touching that again.
He's never expressed any like further fondness for it.
Yeah.
He made it. He liked what he made. And that was the end of that.
He does have a real, like, that was a time in my life. And I think he's on record saying that making the first movie was one of the worst experiences he's ever had. So he just has, like, this is a thing I made. It's kind of like David Lynch with the Dune, where he's just like, it is what it is. What do you want from me? Like, it was, it was hell to make. And, it made its impact. And it's got a legacy. And, it's a thing in my past now. It's...
So, talking about Tim Burton, the studio, of course, as you say, wanted him sort of gone from the director's chair. And I always thought it was just, because the last movie was too dark and whatnot. Kids were freaked out. You can't have all this gross penguin stuff. But looking into it as well, it actually didn't do that well at the box office in comparison to the first one. I didn't know that. Which I assume is probably a little bit of word of mouth. Like, oh, this movie is really messed up.
Yeah.
Don't take your kids to this. So it made $150 million less. Which, that sounds like a lot of money. I don't really know the budgets of films, but that's crazy.
I think as well, though, is not so much like word of mouth. I think that there's a real thing of, like, if you have Batman and the Joker in a movie together, that's a thing people want to see because they know that pairing. Yeah. They'll come into like the general populace with the Penguin and Catwoman. You'll get loads of people be interested, but it's not got that same, like, here's an iconic villain with your iconic hero. This is the two people you know to be arch enemies and stuff. And you see the success repeated, like, 20 odd years later, and, like, Batman Begins did fine. And then The Dark Knight was huge because everyone was like, the Joker's back. We haven't seen him in friggin' years. It probably explained a lot of why Suicide Squad was such a success as well, because people are like, everyone loves this Harley Quinn character, and the Joker's also in this movie too, even though...
That's why they shoehorned him in. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. And it's just like... and now, like, how, we'll be talking about it, obviously... Well, the episode will be out at this point, but the Joker Joaquin Phoenix movie, despite the fact that it looks like it's an R-rated... art house fair, it's tracking to open the huge numbers. So something about that character, I think, that really gets the public. Like, people love Batman, but they love Batman and the Joker together a little bit more, I think.
Definitely, without a shadow of a doubt. And how often really has a sequel done better than the first?
Yeah. Even this...
Really? Because Star Wars, like maybe... But people didn't like Empire when it came out. Did it do better at the box office? Probably.
Yeah. But for them, though, the gamble for this one, it paid off, because this did make $70 million more than Batman.
Yeah, and I can see
Returns.
why. I mean, it's not a better film, but it's a lot of fun.
Mm. Oh yeah,
so I can get it. I get it.
Well, this is we'll get into it more like in the upcoming minutes and stuff. But like, this is the first one I remember being around for. Like, I was too young in '89. I have a vague memory of Andy Peters talking about Returns on CBBC at one point.
Andy Peters, that's one for our English listeners.
Yeah. It was an odd one, too.
Neil, you're going to love that.
It was such an odd one, too. Like, looking back now, Andy Peters was talking about it on CBBC. But Return or Forever was one like, oh, I remember this. I remember the friggin' posters everywhere. I remember all the magazine covers. I remember this, that, everywhere. Just like friggin' this was... huge. The marketing push was
all over. You go to town with your parents, and it would be everywhere, like posters and stuff, as you say.
And it's just like, even because it's such a colorful, because you do have the great contrast. But it could be just maybe it's more eye catching. The fact that it's like Returns is all very monochrome. Like, it's just like, well, Batman's very dark. The Penguins, it's all black and white with that, really, wasn't it?
Which is very Tim Burton.
Yeah. But then, the first one, you had like the darkness of Batman. They had that kind of, the yellow and gold emblem and stuff. But then you had like the wackiness of the Joker in contrast. So it's an eye-catching sort of visual to market your movie on. Whereas you don't get that as much with Returns. But you do in this one, because it's like the darkness of Batman, but the bright green of the Riddler and the zany leopard skin suit of Two-Face and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
The
neon thing in this movie works... like genuinely really well. The neon in the next movie takes it a little bit too far. But this movie gets a good balance of like the neon. It's very striking, but it's never like, what the hell? Except maybe one scene later on.
It's a really good dude. It's what the hell in as much as like this is supposed to be the same Gotham City, and like, holy crap, they changed their style over the course of 3 years. Like the entire city is just going like, you know what? We're out of the 40s now. We ran head first into the 1980s, apparently.
But Burton as well, one of my favourite things from him about this film is when I read that he does not like the title of the movie.
Yeah.
Because the quote specifically was what really got to me. He said, I always hated those titles like Batman Forever. That sounds like a tattoo that somebody would get when they're on drugs or something. Or something some kid would write in the yearbook. I mean, I'd never thought about it, but now that I've read that, I'm like, yeah, I suppose it's not the best name.
This makes it even worse now, though, the fact that it's Tim Burton production. But you just get the image of him sitting in the back row, just like smirking at everything, just like, it's really stupid, right, guys? Batman Forever, what kind of name's that?
I don't know what would he want to call it. What was the original title?
Batman Continues, I think, was what he was.
That's even worse.
Yeah, that's what's way worse. I don't mind Batman Forever as a title because thematically it fits in. So it's like, oh, Batman Forever is a perfectly fine title.
The only title I don't like is Batman and Robin. Especially because you've already had Robin in this damn movie. Spoiler alert.
Well, but maybe they wanted to, like, although they had Robin on all the freaking posters and stuff, so you can't really be like, maybe he's not going to become Robin at the end. But, like,
I suppose you could argue that in the next one, he's actually properly now Robin.
Yeah.
But that's stretching it a little bit. It's not a good title. This is much better. Sorry, Tim. We're normally on your side.
One thing I will say also, in contrast though to Batman Returns, is that, as you might recall, the beginning of our season on that movie, I was talking about a review that was like poo-pooing the title font for being Times New Roman. I just thought that was a very weird thing to complain about. But I have a feeling like maybe Warner Brothers heard about this, because this font now is like, this is the Batman Forever font. If you download this font, it's just called Batman Forever. It's been used in loads of stuff, and every time you see it, it's always like, that's the font of Batman Forever.
And I use it on all the t-shirts we make on TeePublic. Yeah,
it's handy now for us, but doing like any further logos is like, oh, that's the font. So like, it's the official font of the movie. But like, it wasn't just like a random happenstance. It was actually designed by somebody. It was this whole title sequence was designed by a fellow called Anthony Goldschmidt, who's actually a very famous title designer. One of those people is like, I've never heard of him, and he's dead now, as Selena Kyle would say. But he was the
R.I.P.
The title designer for Summer of 42, McCabe and Mrs. Miller, Scarecrow, which is kind of Batman related, but it's also an excellent movie with Gene Hackman and Al Pacino. Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, The Witches of Eastwick. So that's, Pee-wee's Big Adventure is obviously your Burton connection. Witches of Eastwick's John Peters and Jack Nicholson. Worked on The Lost Boys, Scrooged, The Adventures of Ford Fairlane, which I think is a movie, the disastrous Daniel Waters scripted comedy starring Andrew Dice Clay, which co-stars Morris Day. So we're definitely going to have to cover that on the Patreon.
Everything's connected
at some point. And his last movie was actually another Joel Schumacher film called Flawless, which is, I think, Flawless to me is like, it's the epitome of my opinion of Joel Schumacher films, is that it's a great concept and it has everything going for it, and they still kind of mess it up a little bit. Because
I thought you were going to say that. I thought you were going to say that your opinion of all Joel Schumacher movies is that they are flawless. Absolutely flawless.
I think you might actually enjoy Flawless, John, because it's about. It probably would be quite close to Joel Schumacher's heart too, because he's one of the few like openly gay directors in Hollywood. But it stars Robert De Niro, who's a bigoted New York cop who lives in an apartment complex with Philip Seymour Hoffman, who's a flamboyant drag queen. And when De Niro has a stroke, he has to go to speech therapy, and of course, the person he knows who performs and has to speak clearly is Philip Seymour Hoffman. So, and on paper, that's a great thing. So, it's like, bigoted cop overcoming his prejudices by getting to know a drag queen and stuff. And you're just like,
played by Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Yeah. But then they throw in all this stuff about like, there's like a drug cartel, and there's all this. At the end, there's a big shootout, and you're like, you don't need that. Just make it a drama about those two guys. Like, that's all I need to see. But that's the thing with Joel Schumacher. Every movie of his that I've watched, like even the great ones, or not even because even something like Falling Down is like everything about that's almost perfect, but it's still not quite as good as it should be.
Too much stuff going on.
That gets into weird stuff then when he's picking up bazookas and stuff, and you're like, keep this low key, keep it Taxi Driver level. Don't.
No, I really want. In my mind, even though you're talking about a different film and that. In my mind, the drag queen is toting a bazooka.
Well, I haven't seen Flawless since '99 when it came out, so maybe
it could be.
It could be. Maybe I'm just not remembering that part. But
you could make a great dirty joke about.
But even something like Flatliners, so great concept, great cast, looks cool, but there's just something a bit silly about it. That's just like, this is something holding us back. And it's the same with Batman Forever. It's like we'll go through the rest of the movie. There's loads of great stuff in there, and there was loads of great stuff they took out, which would have made it much better. And it's just the epitome of Joel Schumacher to me, is like, everything's there for you. He's on the path, and yet he somehow manages to wander off into the forest by the end. Like, it's just sort of...
Well, at one point he was literally on the path or figuratively, because he claims he originally had in mind an adaptation of Frank Miller's Batman Year One, which is bizarre to me, like a prequel. But that's why Warner Brothers rejected it. They're like, no, we want a sequel.
That's I recall these things, like quotes like this from Joel Schumacher coming out, like post The Dark Knight, where he's like, by the way, I wanted to do something like that, and
I was going to do this.
there's always stuff like that where you're like, nah, you didn't, Joe. Like you're just saying this now. And I think that was like Michael Keaton wanted to do that as well, where he was just like, oh, I was interested in going, maybe in this guy's past and stuff like that. And then just when they were going into this territory, he was, they offered him $15 million, but he still walked away from it and stuff.
I respect that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think it'd for Keaton's reputation now as Batman's kind of flawless, really. Like, I know some people poo-poo Returns, but like him as Batman now is very respected. So. Whereas Val Kilmer, the first name to come up as a performer in the credits, is contentious. Actually, and rewatching it, I didn't have as much disdain for him in the role as I thought, because I was.
Yeah, I'm the same. I actually really liked him 90% of the time.
There's bits of it where you're like, he could be doing more with the part, but it's very conscious that like he was enthusiastic about playing the character. And he had a take, and everything he's doing is not out of like laziness or anything.
No. See, I always thought it was. In my mind, he was just blank. But rewatching it, no. I see what he's doing, and I don't disapprove of it. I think it's fine. It's a good take on the character. There's some new ground there as well that Keaton didn't go into.
Yeah, as we'll cover later on. I think the person who's done the biggest disservice in the film is the character of Bruce Wayne, because they've got stuff going on with him, but there was much better stuff that they should have kept in that they took out.
And they're trying to make Bruce Wayne a character in this one. Yeah, which you're going to see, people. They're trying to make Bruce Wayne a thing after us for 2 movies saying how Bruce doesn't even exist. He's not a person.
Yeah. But
in this one, it's like, oh, no, Bruce is a thing. It's a duality.
Oh, actually, that was one of the things, too, that idea of duality, which we'll be talking about a lot in this film. But that was the thing that, like, apparently, well, from the sound of it, Tim Burton seemed to want to wash his hands of this thing anyway. But apparently they had Schumacher and the original screenwriters, which is Lee and Janet Scott Batchelor. Apparently, that was one of the things that Joel Schumacher first said to Tim Burton. Was like, well, the interesting thing about Batman is his duality. And Tim Burton was like, yes, that's exactly right. Yeah. So he was kind of like, you have my blessing, as like, you clearly get the character and stuff.
Well, I love the way as well Keaton left because he wanted to pursue more interesting roles, which is code speak basically for, this is so damn different from anything I want to be involved in. Let me go. And let him go they did.
Yeah.
But they didn't just go with Val Kilmer, straight away. They had a few ideas, didn't they, floating around. I won't go too much into them, but there were some very interesting choices, floated. Daniel Day-Lewis. I could see that maybe working.
I think he would take the part very seriously as well.
Oh God, yeah. And the number one choice for a while was William Baldwin. Which I could see it working. But the one that really threw me, Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
For Batman. I don't see that. See, I see him, he could play a version of the Riddler. I think. Not this Riddler. If you were doing like a realistic, gritty, like a Nolan kind of thing, I think you could do a Riddler in that sense, setting up traps and devious games, that kind of thing. I could see Johnny Depp doing that.
I think I actually could see, though, mid-90s Johnny Depp playing Batman, though.
You think so?
I just think, I think he would add like a dangerous edge to it, like the same sort of unhinged edge that Keaton has in the first movie, where you're like, we're saying there's bits of like, did he deliberately drop Napier into the chemicals? Or you don't really know with this guy.
Oh, you would be thinking that the whole time with Johnny Depp.
But yeah, of course, they went the Val Kilmer straight off Tombstone.
Which I have not seen. Sorry, Tombstone Minute, guys.
That's the thing I would have loved, though, would be like because Joel Schumacher's like, yeah, I saw him in Tombstone, thought he was pretty good. But like in Tombstone, he's kind of like the Han Solo character. Like he's the, it's Kurt Russell is like the straight, hero.
Most people would probably flip those two.
Yeah, and Kilmer's like the kind of like renegade, like, oh, he gets to do all the cool stuff. He has all the best lines. He's the most charming of of the characters and stuff. So to me, I was like, I don't really get Batman from that performance. But I would have loved that they had kept the voice though, because in that movie he kind of talks in this sort of southern drawl. So I would have loved.
Oh wait, do you not love his voice in this though?
I know, but I would just love if he was just like, can I persuade that you take a sandwich with your son and I'll get drive through. Like Joel Schumacher just insisting.
McConaughey's Batman.
Yeah. Schumacher's just like, no, I want that though. Like, tell me, doctor, do you enjoy the circus?
That would be okay. That would be something new.
The thing is, like, that's just the Batman voice. When he's Bruce Wayne, he talks like Val Kilmer, and then
he's putting it on.
He puts on the cows. He just turns into this sort of southern dandy kind of character.
I can't help myself.
We'll say though, appreciate the fact that the names in the credits are also color coded, because you have Val Kilmer first, like kind of dark blue, because you can't just have black because you wouldn't be able to see it. Then Tommy Lee Jones, at that point, second biggest star. You'd think it would have been Jim Carrey, but he was still on the way up. But he's purple, of course. Friggin' half of Two-Face's face is purple, so color coordination there. But Tommy Lee Jones at that point was straight off Cobb, which I think will mean a lot more to Americans, because apparently it's based on Ty Cobb, who's like a big baseball guy. But like,
oh, I've heard the name, but I don't know.
It's just anything. You always get these things mentions like a Babe Ruth and stuff like that. And it's like, it means nothing to me. No, John Goodman played him in a movie one time, but that's it. Like, apparently he was the best, but I don't know if he still stands as the best, because it was like the 1910s or whatever when he was around. So,
oh God, who knows? I know, little enough about English sports, let alone American.
That's like Tommy Lee Jones played Eric Cantona.
Oh my God! Now you're talking 90s English football. That I know.
That'd be amazing though if it was just like Tommy Lee Jones doing press conferences with the collar up, like the seagulls will follow the trawler.
Yeah, he's not even doing the French.
He's just doing a Sean Connery on it. He's just like, I'm not even gonna try.
Oh my God.
But then so Tommy Lee Jones fresh off Cobb. Then in color coordination, Jim Carrey comes in with the green. At this point, he is just off Dumb and Dumber. So, but he's at this point of the 90s, he's in like firm ascent. Like, this is the age of Carrey. Like, so much so, I'm still kind of surprised that he's not like, friggin' ahead of Val Kilmer in the cast, because it's like he's such around that time he was becoming such a major star.
Well, he'd done Ace Ventura, Dumb and Dumber, The Mask, all of those already. So it's like, holy crap. I don't know if people younger than us will realize just how big he was.
Yeah.
Like, probably the biggest actor. But I think his weird slapstick rubber face sort of gig, it works here.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this is almost the quintessential role for him in some ways. I wouldn't have said that before. I would have gone, Ace Ventura or something. I actually think this might be the perfect distillation of that shtick he was doing.
It's also the one thing you can tell people where they'll remember the movie. Because, like, there's a couple of people I've spoken to who are like, apparently, there are people in the world who don't just know the Batman films off the top of their head.
What?
So you have to say, they're like, we're covering, Batman Forever. And they're like, what one's that? And you're like, it's the Val Kilmer one. I'm like, well... And this is like, it's the one with Jim Carrey. Like, the Riddler one. It's just like, if you go for anything else, though, it'd be like, is that the one with, like, Arnold Schwarzenegger and stuff? And it's like, no, it's the one before that. Like, what was the one before that? It's the one with Jim Carrey. Oh, of course, the one with Jim Carrey. Would love to be like, it's the one that has, Debbie Mazar as Two-Face's henchwoman. Oh, of course, Debbie Mazar.
We get a few other new names as well. Like Nicole Kidman comes up next.
Of course, her previous movie to this was My Life with Michael Keaton.
I did not pick up on that.
And that was one of those ones where, like, I think the plot line's like, Keaton's dying, so he's going to do like a video diary for his kid, which seems like such a cliched plot line. But I was wondering, is that where that came from, that movie? Because there was a Simpsons that referenced that, but I thought it was a Simpsons that predated, like, 93. Like, I thought it was like one of the early, like, 1991 kind of episodes.
Maybe they copied the Simpsons. Simpsons did it first.
Yeah, but this seems like one of those things. It's just like, that must have been a story that's been done like a million times. I was like, oh, someone's dying, so they're doing this touching camcorder recording for the kids and stuff. But yeah, that was Nicole Kidman. Just, from straight off that, and then coincidentally enough, well, that's the thing though, because everyone's color coordinated, but then hers is just like in the distance it looks like it's going to be yellow, and then it gets up close and it's orange, and it's just like, I guess she has kind of like strawberry blonde hair. Is that what
That's
they're
the
going
closest
for?
they could get. And let's be honest, right? I hope you agree with me. This character, not a fan.
No. I'll chase like, in terms of female representation, this is night and day compared to Catwoman.
Yeah.
This is a thankless role.
I don't mind her acting. She's probably just doing what she's told to do. That's fine. But there's no point in this character existing. Why is she in the movie?
Well, with the stuff they cut out, there's a kind of reason for her to be there. But it's purely as a cipher.
Yeah.
For that to have Bruce Wayne have someone to talk to who's not Alfred about this stuff.
I don't think the other people considered for the part would have done it any better. I mean, you have like Linda Hamilton, Robin Wright, people like that. It's like, well, I mean, they'd be fine in them. I like the idea of them in a Batman movie, but not as this character. Don't do anyone a disservice.
But then after her, we have Chris O'Donnell, who at that point, once again, he was in Ascent, because this is after Scent of a Woman.
Well, after this movie, especially, he was the quintessential 90s guy, wasn't he? Like, cheesy handsome, rugged yet pretty. Every girl I knew was in love with him from this.
I think Lowell mentioned the fact that she loved Chris O'Donnell.
My sister fancied him.
Apparently, he was in top consideration for Titanic.
Yeah,
and lost out. It's just like, that must be such a kick in the teeth to be like, I could have been in Titanic. Well, to be fair, what you call him, Sam Worthington's was in Avatar, did none for his career, even though it was the highest grossing film of all time.
Yeah, but Titanic was the biggest grossing movie at the time, and I think for a good reason. I don't think it's the best movie ever made, don't get me wrong, but it's a memorable movie. You remember it, you remember the characters, you remember the set pieces. You don't remember Avatar.
I think like DiCaprio and Kate Winslet, I think they had to kind of overcome Titanic because they had the reputation after. It's like, this lovey-dovey teen romance stuff.
Well, it's a bit like the Star Wars problem, isn't it? Like, Mark Hamill couldn't do anything properly for ages.
Although I recently watched Corvette Summer, his film he did immediately after A New Hope.
I want to watch that. Yeah, I've never seen it.
It's got Annie Potts in it. She's the co-star. It's just like, she's great in it. She's like this surly wannabe prostitute that he hangs about with. And she's loads of fun. The film itself's terrible, and he's pretty bad in it. Like, it's gonna... Mark Hamill took the 80s to kind of find his niche, which was doing the Joker, apparently.
Yeah.
Where he's infallible at that part. But,
well, you need the right role. It might not be him.
But then, coincidentally enough, though, Chris O'Donnell... immediately before this was in a movie called Mad Love with Drew Barrymore, who we'll be seeing later in this movie. And of course, Mad Love was the title of the Harley Quinn origin comic book that Paul Dini, Bruce Timm did, that was later adapted into an episode of the animated series. So it's kind of this Batman stuff all over the place in there. But I think that's one where it's like, Chris O'Donnell falls in love with Drew Barrymore, but she's a bit quirky. Turns out she's a bit mental. And it's all about, it's
hilarious things happen.
But I think it's supposed to be a bit smolty. It could probably be like, it's like Titanic. Instead of like a shipwreck, she's a wreck. Like, that's the pitch. But anyway, with his name disappearing, we've reached the end of minute one of that Minute Forever. But before we go, if I may, John, I'm going to introduce something new for this season.
Dun dun dun.
And it may work, and it may not. People might think it's a terrible idea. But I am in a seasonal mood. I am going to begin each Monday by by citing a riddle to you. I want to see if you can work it out on air, and if you can't, on Friday, I will reveal the answer. And
Wait, you want me to work it out?
Yeah, I want to see if you.
Okay,
if
I hope
say
you know I am the worst person at riddles ever to exist.
Oh, I mean, when it'll be you and the guests and stuff when they're in as well. But like, and then of course, people on the listeners page and who are engaging with us online, don't just look it up. Like, if you're gonna guess, by all means, write into us with a guess. But like, don't just look it up and be like, I worked it out.
Yeah, that's cheating. We don't abide that.
But you never know. I could do this, and then like every Monday, the guest or you could be instantly like, "That's what it is." Like, oh god damn it! But this one I have is riddle me this: why is an orange like a bell?
Why is an orange like a bell? Oh god damn it! See, I'm terrible at riddles. I have no idea. Listeners, you're gonna have to help me. You're going to have to come to my aid.
It's a bit tough, like, when you're on the spot, too. I'm pretty bad at it. I think even in school and stuff, anytime any question was asked, even if you knew the answer, you're just like, oh, because you're just instantly put under scrutiny.
Yeah, an orange like a bell. Now, I'm going to need your help, listeners. This isn't contrived. This isn't a setup. Like, I didn't know the riddle beforehand, and I don't know it now. So,
it's feeling a bit
help.
like a children's TV show there, like, oh, can you help me out?
Like Blue's Clues.
Yeah. It's like, maybe if we all say the answer really loud, I'll hear it, and then
it might work. Come on, everybody. Shout really loud into your phone. Help me now. No, please do. Please do. I need your assistance. So I really hope you can help me by Friday, because I am desperately in need.
I just hope that I remember to tell you the answer on Friday. Because then it'd be like every week people like, you forgot to give the answer to the riddle. Like, shit, yeah.
But yes, do help me. And we will depart now. We will head off into the dark, dark night. And if you would like to talk to us, we are available on Facebook at the Bat-Minute Listeners Cave. You can give us the answer there. We're on Twitter at Bat-Minute, Instagram at The Bat-Minute. We have a website now, thebatminute.com. And we are on Patreon. If you want to get more, you can have bonus episodes. And, you can help us. It's always lovely. Check us out on TeePublic, too. If you want to buy some lovely merch, you can sit on a cartoon of our faces. Isn't that wonderful? Buy a pillow, buy a cushion. And join us on Wednesday for more wonderful Bat-Minute forever.
Next time... to all bat patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. Gauntlets get clad and gadgets are grabbed as we witness the genesis of the real Bat Genius. But while a dependent domestic tendering the donation of a hero to a hero may seem atmospherically askew, will a more droll defender go through with his peculiar pitch for drive-through? Find out Wednesday. Same Bat Pod, a different Bat Minute. Ba-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.